Hello, and welcome to Overthinking Eurovision Looks Back. I'm Matt Rather. We can argue forever about our favorite Eurovision winner, but when it comes to the most important Eurovision winner, there's no contest. Waterloo not only catapulted ABBA to superstardom, it jump-started the entire Swedish pop music industry. Without Waterloo, do we get Max Martin? Without Max Martin, does Taylor Swift still record 1989 and become a pop icon? Without Taylor Swift, does the US economy plunge into a devastating recession? Waterloo. We couldn't escape its legacy if we wanted to. Mark Lee, our Napoleonic expert, has the story.
In 2008, the Telegraph newspaper reported on the top 25 British karaoke songs of all time using data going all the way back to 1993. The most popular song ever was But the fact that we know Waterloo so well makes it hard to appreciate how weird it is. The Battle of Waterloo was Napoleon's crushing military defeat at the hands of the Seventh Coalition in 1815. His triumphant return from exile looked like it was going to be one of history's greatest comebacks, right up there with John Travolta in Pulp Fiction. But the combined forces of the British Duke of Wellington and Prussian Field Marshal von Blücher finally put an end to 12 years of Napoleonic wars, crushing Joaquin Phoenix's dreams of a second Oscar. In ABBA's song, the singer is comparing her falling in love not only to a battle, but a disastrous battle, which on the surface doesn't seem that romantic. It would be like if an American rock band wrote a fun summer bop called Gettysburg, and the lyrics were like, "They call me Little Round Top, so keep charging, baby, don't stop." But of course, there's a long literary tradition of comparing love and battle. In The Art of Love by Ovid, the poet compares the experience of falling in love to a military campaign, with the lover as the general and the beloved as the enemy. In The Fairy Queen by Edmund Spenser, the connection between fighting and wooing isn't even a metaphor. Britomart and Artegall meet while dressed in full armor and challenge each other to a joust, which is the beginning of their courtship and marriage. It's the kind of meet-cute Hollywood doesn't do anymore. But the best literary comparison to Waterloo may be Much Ado About Nothing, where love is a battle, but all in good fun.
You must not, sir, mistake my niece. There is a kind of merry war betwixt Signor Benedick and her. They never meet, but there's a skirmish of wit between them.
And at the end of the play, both Beatrice and Benedick consider their falling in love to be a defeat, but one they accept happily.
The married man?
A college of wit crackers cannot flout me out of my humor.
For further reading about Love as a Battlefield, see Benatar Pat et al. So in Waterloo, the singer casts herself in the role of Napoleon, someone who hardly ever lost. She isn't the falling in love type.
I was defeated, you won the war.
And the Battle of Waterloo was notably Napoleon's final fight, implying that this new love is going to be lasting.
Promise to love you forevermore.
So it's a fun metaphor, but because this is Overthinking It, we have to take issue with the historical accuracy of one particular lyric.
At Waterloo, Napoleon did surrender.
Well, actually, no, he didn't. He escaped to Paris and tried to shore up support for his failing regime. He abdicated the throne 4 days later and only surrendered to the British on July 15th, almost a month after the battle. But as much as I enjoy talking Napoleon, ABBA really isn't interested in military history here. The story goes that Benny and Bjorn spent November and December of 1973 holed up in the Stockholm archipelago, the future birthplace of Max Anger. One of the songs they wrote there was Waterloo, but they only wrote the melody and then gave it to their manager Stig Anderson to provide the lyrics. According to Stig, I thought a long while, at least a week. In order to obtain additional ideas, I browsed through collections of quotations, and then I spotted Waterloo. This is a great title, I thought. A generally accepted term, even internationally. First of all, if he got the idea from a book of quotations, what was the actual quote? Waterloo. I couldn't have escaped if I wanted to. Napoleon Bonaparte. But Stig's story does reveal something important. This song was written with an international audience in mind. It was designed to win Eurovision. In fact, ABBA had been trying to win Eurovision since way before they were ABBA. Frida and Benny first met backstage at Melodifestivalen in 1969. Then in 1972, Benny and Bjorn wrote a ballad called Say It With a Song, which competed in Melfest. And in 1973, the four members of ABBA competed with a song called Ring Ring, although at that point they were going by the unwieldy moniker of Bjorn and Benny, Agnetha and Annie Fried. Melfest required that songs be performed in Swedish, but 1973 was the first year Eurovision allowed countries to submit songs not in their native language. So the band prepared an English version of the song just in case.
Translation trivia time.
The English lyrics for Ring Ring were actually provided by legendary American songwriter Neil Sedaka, the guy behind Calendar Girl and Breaking Up Is Hard to Do. Ring Ring made the foursome huge stars in their home country. The Swedish version went to number 1 on the charts, with the English version right behind it at number 2. But the Melfest jury placed it only 3rd. More importantly, Ring Ring didn't even make it onto the charts in the UK or the US. So in 1974, the group decided to try out for Eurovision one last time. According to Benny, it was the only way we could reach an audience outside of Sweden and make people aware that there was this group called ABBA who thought they were good songwriters. And they had good reason to think that Eurovision was their ticket to the big time. Only the year before, Spain's Eurovision entry Eres Tú became a massive hit all over the world. It went to number 9 in the United States, and that was a song entirely in Spanish. Imagine how much better a song in English could do if they could somehow make it through Melfest. Luckily, the band benefited from a big change in the rules. Ring Ring losing Melfest in 1973 created enough outcry so that the Swedish television broadcaster altered the voting system, putting juries made up of a cross-section of the public in charge. Sure enough, when the newly christened ABBA performed at Melfest in February 1974, they absolutely stomped the competition, much like the Duke of Wellington stomping Le Petit Caporal.
Translation trivia time.
According to Rebecca Ferguson, the Swedish actress who plays Ilsa Faust in the Mission Impossible movies, her mother helped to translate Waterloo into English. Wow, 2 translation trivia times in one video. What are the odds? So ABBA comes to Eurovision with a song in English about one of the greatest military victories in British history. Maybe they expected that to win over the host country. If so, it didn't work. The song got nul point from the UK and nul point from Belgium, which is where Waterloo actually is. But never mind that. The real question is, what did the French jury think about a song about a crushing French defeat?
Your mother was a hamster and your father smelt of elderberries.
Sadly, we'll never know. France withdrew from the contest after the sudden death of President Georges Pompidou. His memorial service was actually on the day of Eurovision, which kind of makes a song dunking on Napoleon feel like adding insult to injury. But apparently the French weren't that mad about Waterloo because the song charted at number 4 there. ABBA actually recorded a version of the song in French, and holy smokes, we're doing a 3rd trivia time, baby!
Translation trivia time.
The French lyrics to Waterloo were written by Alain Boublil, who would go on to write Les Miserables in 1980. He's apparently really good at taking tragic French defeats and turning them into catchy lyrics. And by the way, if you didn't know Les Miserables was originally in French, you need to check out some clips on the YouTube.
Okay, that's the story of how Waterloo won Eurovision, but why does Waterloo matter to us today? Next time, we'll go over the ways Waterloo changed pop music forever. We'll see you then. It's also just a fun word to say. Waterloo. Waterloo. How can you not smile?